Well, here we are in chapter 10 of the book of Zechariah, still continuing on the same theme and ideas from the last chapter, which is a really great theme. If you haven't watched the last video, Zechariah 9, go watch that too. A lot of great, profound insights. So we're going to continue along those same lines for today in chapter 10. So verse 1, ask ye of the Lord rain in the time of the latter rain. So the Lord shall make bright clouds and give them showers of rain to every one grass in the field. Now, when you think about this, okay, ask the Lord. He's saying we should be praying and asking God to bless us, okay? There's an early rain and there's a latter rain that sometimes is referred to in this. An early rain is a rain that helps them begin starting the germination process with seeds. The latter rain usually comes later in the season, so kind of springtime and then fall time basically is like a second rain before harvest that helps to improve the crops, and then they harvest after that. So he's talking about get that latter rain better, basically, so that you have a good harvest. You can have that prosperity, the blessings of the harvest. So verse 2, for the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie. They have told false dreams, and they comfort in vain. Therefore they went their way as a flock. They were troubled because there was no shepherd. So this is talking about, again, they didn't have, if you think of Israel as sheep, they didn't have a good leader to lead them. And so idols and diviners and things filled the vacuum of lack of leadership. Now, it wasn't there was a lack of leadership, it was a lack of the people willing to follow the true leader. And so they had problems with that. So idols were no help to the people. They were not being guided properly. So they had a fake religion. They just appeared religious, but there wasn't really real religion. They didn't really believe in God. Verse 3, mine anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats. For the Lord of hosts hath visited his flock, the house of Judah, and hath made them as his goodly horse in the battle. So again, because these false teachers that rose up took over, and the people followed the false teachers. They wouldn't follow the real teachers. The real shepherds they ignored. They followed the false shepherds. And so God is mad at them because of this. And we can spend a ton of time looking back through Isaiah, through Jeremiah, through a lot of the other prophets at the time, and you can see this happening as idol worship, idolatry becomes a problem. They're not listening to the prophets anymore. And, Elijah, Elisha, their time frame as well, same thing. So verse 4, out of him came forth the corner or cornerstone. Out of him the nail. Out of him the battle bow. Out of him every oppressor together. So let's look at this. Guthrie and Motyer's New Bible Commentary said this. Out of them is represented 4 times in this verse. Judah will provide the cornerstone for security. In Isaiah 28:16, this is a figure for the Davidic king. The tent peg or nail was the hooked peg built into a wall to hold the implements of war as well as the household utensils. This is the attribute of reliability. The battle bow refers to effective power and leadership. Every ruler usually the word is employed in a bad sense. So when it's talking about that as well, out of him, every oppressor. But here it is used positively. Their prince leader will not oppress by unjust taxation or impose crushing burdens too great for the poor to bear, but will exact tribute from their vanquished enemies. Oesterly ascribed the above titles to Simon, Judas, and Jonathan Maccabeus, but each one of the 4 is undoubtedly Messianic. The ultimate reference is to the Lion of the tribe of Judah, by whose aid his people will conquer every foe. Now, realize when we're looking at this, okay, that like we talked about in the last chapter as well, in Zechariah 9, that a lot of scholars see this being fulfilled during the Maccabean revolt against Antiochus IV. They see this as the idea of the salvation of Judah coming because he was oppressing them. We're going to talk a little bit more about what happened with that during the intermediary period video. So that's coming up since we're almost done with the Old Testament. But so they see a lot of fulfillment in the ancient days in this, but we can also still see the dualism of fulfillment in the latter days as well when Christ comes again in the second coming and what he will do to protect Israel and to fight against the wicked. Verse 5, and they shall be as mighty men which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in the battle. They shall fight because the Lord is with them, and the riders and horses shall be confounded. So again, the Lord is now helping the people to defend themselves. Again, we can see this being fulfilled literally through the Maccabean revolt. But again, this is also God helping his people in the last days. Verse 6, I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph, and I will bring them again to place them, for I have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. For I am the Lord their God, and will hear them. So house of Judah and the house of Joseph, that is, house of Judah, of course, is the southern kingdom. House of Joseph, which is Ephraim and Manasseh were Joseph's sons. That's northern kingdom. So he will strengthen them and save them and bring them back. That's the gathering, basically. They will not cast them off, but will hear them. So when they are repentant, wanting to come back, he's ready to accept them and bring them back. Verse 7, and they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine. Yea, their children shall see it and be glad, and their heart shall rejoice in the Lord. So the Ephraim will be like a mighty man. We talked about when you think of patriarchal blessings, most people in America today and in the modern world is from the tribe of Ephraim. So that's part of this idea of Ephraim got if I remember right, the birthright through Joseph. Ephraim will be the one to spread the gospel in the last days, will be mighty in being able to help the people out, and then that will move to help spread the gospel and prepare people for the second coming, and then they will have more abundance of blessings because of their righteousness. Verse 8, I will hiss for them and gather them, for I have redeemed them. They shall increase as they have increased. So they're going to things are going to go better for them. Doesn't mean that this is not a gospel prosperity type benefit where all the righteous become rich and famous and wealthy and prosperous in everything that they do. No, it means that God is going to help them through the challenges of life, the problems and issues they have. They'll look back and go, I don't know how I survived all that. But it was because of God that they survived and they did better than they thought. Verse 9, and I will sow them among the people. So separating them out. And they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again. I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt, and will gather them out of Assyria, and I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them. Now remember here, this is Jehovah speaking. Okay, this is Jesus Christ speaking, basically. If you think back, okay. So when we look at these ideas, in fact, let me give it. There's another quote I have here. Kyle and Delitzsch's Bible commentary. They said, Egypt, as we have already shown at Hosea 9:3, is rather introduced in all the passages mentioned simply as a type of the land of bondage, on account of its having been the land in which Israel lived in the olden time, under the oppression of the heathen world, and Ashur or Assyria is introduced in the same way, as the land into which the 10 tribes had been afterwards exiled. This typical symbolical significance is placed beyond all doubt by verse 11, since the redemption of Israel out of the countries named is there exhibited under the type of the liberation of Israel out of the bondage of Egypt under the guidance of Moses. The Ephraimites are to return into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, the former representing the territory of the 10 tribes in the olden time to the east of Jordan, the latter to that to the west. So compare Micah 7:14. So they talk about Gilead and Lebanon. That's both sides of the river Jordan, where all the tribes were settled. And there's going to be so many people coming in that place will not be found for them. It's going to be packed. So many people are going to return. So this gathering is going to be a huge thing that's already started and will continue to go up through the second coming of Christ, basically. Verse 11, and he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up. And the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. We've definitely seen that. And I will strengthen them in the Lord, and they shall walk up and down in his name, saith the Lord. So God is going to strengthen the people. That's that idea that God adds a boost to everything, the Egyptian bee concept we've talked about in the past. So good things for those who are keeping the commandments and following God. Bad things for those who are trying to spread wickedness and oppression. So some good lessons we get to learn from that chapter. Now let's jump to the next chapter as we continue forward.